Hello, hello. Welcome to my first long form YouTube video ever. This is crazy. I've been posting shorts for about a month and we reached 100 subscribers a few days ago. So here we are. This is crazy. I wanted to have a booktube for so long and it's just, wow, I just can't even believe this is happening. To preface, I do not have any fancy recording equipment and I have no idea how to edit videos. I'm just a girl who wants to share her love of books and love of writing. So this is raw footage from my iPhone, but that's okay. We're gonna deal with it. I have an outline to help keep me on track to keep this video a decent length because I don't want it to run too long. Again, since this is raw footage, it's almost as if I was recording this live. But today I just want to talk about the 10 books I read this summer. There are, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, 10 books I read this summer. So the first book I read was on my Kindle, and I read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Starting off strong with a book that took me an eternity to read. I rated this an 8 out of 10 because it was like, I hated Cornelius Snow. I know that's not how you pronounce his name. I don't care. That's how I was reading it for the entire book up until like the last few pages. So to me, he's Cornelius Snow. I just hated him, but that was the whole point. So it was still a good book. I didn't like the ambiguous ending. And there was just like, it just took me so long to read and I really didn't like the main character. But again, that was the point. And I really admired how much Suzanne Collins had to go study the psychology of a narcissist before writing this book. So I really enjoyed that. And I liked seeing kind of the beginning era of the Capitol in Panem. So I thought that was very interesting. The next book I read, which was also on my Kindle, was Wings of Starlight. I loved this book. I read this in one sitting, you guys. I haven't done that in 5 years. This book was so good. I know you can tell just based on my room and if you've seen any of my other videos, how I dress, that I am a sucker for aesthetics, okay? I will go out of my way to make things aesthetic. And when I say Wings of Starlight, I'm talking about the one that's like the Pixie Hollow Fairies one about Lord Mallory and Queen Clarion. Oh my gosh, I loved this book. It was so beautiful. And the romance was so cute. It was so cute. I usually am not a romance reader or a romantasy reader at that, but I loved this book and the fairies. It was just so magical and so whimsical, and I loved it so much. And then the next book I read, which I do actually have the physical copy of, was What Will They Think by Grace Valentine. And this is a Christian book. It's not very thick. It took me 3 days to read. This is a Christian book about women in the Bible who didn't care what other people thought of them and just lived out their faith openly. And yes, I am including this because it is a book that I read this summer and I didn't want to exclude it just for the purpose of hiding my faith on the internet. I thought that would be a really, really dumb reason to exclude a book and kind of defeating the whole point of what the book was talking about too. Like, what a hypocrite would I be then? So yeah, I will never go and hide my faith on this channel, but I do read quite a bit of theology and philosophy. So this is one of the books I read. I love how pink the cover is and I thought it was so good. Yeah, it just was really a good book. I loved this book. Then the next book I read was Sunrise on the Reaping. Emotional damage is like the only way that I could describe that book. I also read this on my Kindle, but I do need to go and buy the physical copy because it was so good. I am a sucker for tragedies. You have to understand that about me before you can understand any of my videos on this channel. I love a tragic ending, like from the bottom of my soul. And I have never before seen a dystopian sci-fi tragedy. And the way that it was so like the main message that I took away from Sunrise on the Reaping was, even if you fight as hard as you can, sometimes you won't win. And I was like, dang, what a message to put in a book. Like, that's crazy. And oh my gosh. And I thought that I was going to get away with not crying. I thought, it can't really be that sad. I'm prepared, right? Girl, the way I was bawling my eyes out. This book was a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Just the message and the execution. And I almost never cry during books, but I was sobbing. Ooh, it was so rough. Okay, the next book I read, ooh, this one hurts me a little bit. So I don't know, if you guys follow me, you might know this person named Callie Holbrook on YouTube. And she is a fellow teen author, and I read her book on Kindle, Return of the Keepers. This really pains me to say. I had to DNF it because it was not that like I disliked the plot. It just, the way that she wrote, I was just kind of like, it feels like I'm reading a rough draft right now. And the reason that pains me to say is because as a fellow teen author, I understand that Callie Holbrook is so passionate about what she does. And I understand that she self-published her novel. I also understand that her being a self-publisher means that she was her own editor. Not all writers are editors, and I believe, based on what I read of her work, that she knows how to write. She doesn't fully understand how to edit, and if she had just gone through, done a little more research, done a few more drafts, gotten a few beta readers to give her constructive criticism before pushing her book out on Amazon, I feel that it would have been so much better than the final product actually was. Just the way that she went about characterization, the way that she went about foreshadowing, the way it was so obvious and so predictable and just so... It was so sad because I've been following her on YouTube for like almost a year now, and I wanted to love her book so bad, but I just couldn't. And it's truly just because of the editing and a few minor errors, and I just was like, yeah. So I had to DNF it because and again, this does really pain me to say out loud, but as I was going into editing Red Shore, I was afraid that her bad writing and bad editing was going to negatively affect my own writing, and that is the main reason I DNF'd, which is so sad. I wanted to love this book so bad, and I really hope for the best for her. I hope for her success. I hope that she goes on to write more books, and I hope that she learns how to edit them properly before self-publishing again, because I want her to succeed. I'm not saying this to be mean in any way, and I really do want her to succeed as a fellow teen author. So the next book I read, oh my gosh, you guys. This book, Sadie by Courtney Summers. I got this book at a garage sale for $1, okay? One of the best dollars I have ever, like, oh my gosh, even thinking about this book, I'm about to cry right now. This book was advertised with the blurb on the back as a murder mystery, as a girl going to chase down her murderer and her abuser. I was not prepared for I just was not prepared. This book is not about a murder mystery. This book is about child abuse and pedophiles and drug abuse and severe poverty. There were times, like, I'm sorry, I can't even string a sentence together right now because this book was just so deplorable in the best way. I genuinely have never picked up a book and then looked at my life so differently afterwards. I have never been so grateful for the life that I live after reading a book like this. There were times where this book was genuinely so distressing to read that I could not read it. Like, I had to physically put this book down and return to it an hour or two later because it was so traumatizing. So if you have been abused in the past, or if you grew up in poverty, or if you grew up in like just really bad situations that no one should ever have to go through, don't read this book, because even as someone who has never been through any of that, it was scarring in the best way. It really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I've kind of turned the other way to. The writing was hauntingly, grotesquely beautiful. Like, the execution of how she handled these topics was perfect. And the overall impact was just like blowing a hole through my heart and making me see my entire life and my entire world in a different way. 10 out of 10. Absolutely, 10 out of 10. Okay. The next book I read was Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. Okay. If y'all have seen my videos, you know Robin Hobb is my favorite fantasy author. Look how chunky this book is. This book is a brick, okay? And obviously I annotated it all. I loved this book. It was a little bit slow paced for me. It's 880 pages. It took me 3 weeks to read. But I loved this book. You know that one song that's like golden brown and it's like never, never, never. It sounds like that song in my head. It's so good. It's so good. It's about like pirates and traders, and I just loved this book. It was so aesthetic, and like I really related to Wintrow. This book follows many main characters, and Wintrow is a 14-year-old boy who grew up in a monastery, and he's taken from the monastery by his dad to be a sailor on his dad's new ship, okay? And sailors are not very holy people. I don't think that needs to be said. But Wintrow, this little priest, is now living with these sailors, these very crude sailors, and the author does not hold back. It gets kind of gross a little bit, and Wintrow is struggling to hold his grasp on his faith while still not being an outcast amongst these sailors, and he's just like, how do you live out what you know is right when you're being like bullied for it? Which I thought, like, I have experienced something so similar. So I related to him so much, and I loved his arc so much. And yeah, I just really love this book. Robin Hobb is amazing. The characterization, the world building, the plot, mwah, it's perfect. I love this book. However, the second book in the trilogy, because this is the first book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy, okay? The second book, Ship of Madship. This has to be my least favorite book by Robin Hobb. It was so slow. It took 200 pages for the plot to get going. And then it took 400 pages for the plot to get, like, interesting, okay? And then it still was pretty boring until the last 50 pages. This book is 830 pages long. It was just a waste of my time. Like, I honestly could have gone on to read the third book, Ship of Destiny, without reading this book and understood what was happening. Like, I don't want to hate on Robin Hobb because I love her and I'm trying to, like, get more people to realize that she exists because her books are amazing. I love them. But this has to be my least favorite. And I really didn't like the direction. I just talked about how much I loved Wintrow's arc in Ship of Magic. Really hated the way that she went with his arc in Mad Ship. I was like, what are you doing to my boy Wintrow? Yeah. I just really did not like this book. I forgot to get this one off the shelf. Excuse me a moment. So the next book I read after Ship of Magic, I was like, okay, dog, I gotta take a break from this series before I continue, which I've never done that before. Usually when I read a series, I read the series from like start to finish with no breaks, okay? But the next book I read was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, okay? I also got this book for $1 at a garage sale. Again, one of the best dollars I have ever spent. This book was so good. My jaw was on the floor, okay? The writing was so incredibly beautiful that I genuinely was like, whoa, like my mind was like blown. I wasn't a big fan of the plot, and I wasn't a big fan of the second half of the book, but this book just struck such a deep place in my heart that, you know, I cried once during Sunrise on the Reaping. I cried 7 times during Where the Crawdads Sing before we were even halfway through the book. Not that anything even particularly sad was going on. I mean, there is some sad stuff in it, but nothing like Sunrise on the Reaping. It was just the way that this author writes so beautifully. So this book is not only... Actually, it's not a 10 out of 10 because I just really didn't like the murder trial in the second half of the book. It was just like, dude, let's go back to the pretty swamp and like talk about feelings. Anyway, loved this book. Not a 10 out of 10, but I definitely found a new favorite author. So Delia Owens and Robin Hobb are currently my favorite authors. Love this book. I definitely recommend reading it, especially if you're a teenage girl. This book is so beautiful. Okay, the last book I read this summer, which I don't have the physical copy of, and I didn't read it on my Kindle. I checked it out from my library. I read Scythe by Neil Shusterman to also take a break from the Live Ship Traders trilogy because I was like, I'm not ready to go back into that book yet. It's just the world building is all a little heady, and I can tell it's already so slowly paced that I'm like, yeah. One thing about Robin Hobb is that she's written this big series, okay? I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's all of her books are connected, and it starts with the Assassin's Apprentice trilogy, and it goes on and ends with Fitz and the Fool, I believe, and I'm currently trying to read my way through that. I've read 5 books out of 16 from that series, and what I've noticed is that series is broken up into trilogies, and each trilogy starts off really strong, okay? Like Assassin's Apprentice was a really, really good book. One of my favorite books of all time. Ship of Magic was a really good book. Started off super strong. But then as those trilogies go on, the plot gets like weird and not good. And then it just gets so slow and like worse. I don't even know how to explain it, but like the first books of all her trilogies are so good. But then as the trilogies go on, it just kind of like the quality just kind of goes like this, which is like really sad to say because I love her. I genuinely love her work. But yeah, anyway, that's just something you should know about Robin Hobb if you ever decide to read any of her books. So the last book I read this summer, already said, Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This was another 10 out of 10. I don't know about y'all, but I love books that just go so deep into like philosophy and humanity and morality. And I was just like, oh, I was eating this book up, you guys. I was eating it up so much. I was like, dude, this book is crazy. And the plot twist, I was just like, I didn't really like the ending, but I'm not gonna let that take away from the 10 out of 10. I would have preferred, if I were the one writing this book, I would have made it so that Citra actually did kill Rowan at the end. If you weren't prepared for that spoiler, I'm sorry. But yeah, so no one kills each other. Rowan and Citra survive, but I would have preferred if one of them actually died. I really feel like ending the book that way and a bittersweet ending would have made the story so much more impactful, but I understand that Neil Shusterman was only setting up the book for the rest of the series. So I understand why he ended it the way he did. I just think it would have been better and more true to the theme of the novel if one of them had actually died at the end. Anyway, those are the 10 books that I read this summer. By summer, I mean from June through August. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you maybe added some books to your TBR because of this. In case you can't tell, my reading selection is very vast. I read theology, philosophy, fantasy, sci-fi, contemporary, historical fiction. I read a little bit of everything, and that is because as a writer, I think it's really important to draw inspiration from multiple different sources. And not only that, but I do find that I really enjoy different kinds of literature and different kinds of books. Like if you stay in one section your whole life, you're never gonna know if you like something else if you never try it. Like I really enjoy historical fiction. I really enjoy contemporary thrillers. I never would have known that if I only stuck to reading fantasy, even though I only write fantasy. I really enjoy reading a bit of everything. So I hope you guys draw a little bit of reading inspiration from that too. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching my video.